I'd now ask committee member Doug McSween to induct our next athlete and builder.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Doug McSween, and I'm here to induct Gregor McPherson into the Waterford Sports Hall of Fame. So, Gregor, we finally arrived. We got here. 8,000 phone calls back and forth, everything else. Somebody even let me know that he became an entrepreneur again. He's renting out his attic, but they wouldn't pay, so he booted them out. So anyhow, we don't want to bring that up because the guy that says is enough trouble tonight. Anyhow, dealing with Gregor and everything else, all really good, very interesting. Anyhow, when I get going, and it always happens with all the athletes, you start uncovering good things. And so Gregor, born in Waterford, November 2nd, 1940. Parents Martin and Laura MacPherson of Ross Avenue, in Waterford. Family of three, Gregor, Brenda, and Laura Lee. Married to the lovely Celica. 5 children, Charmaine, Juanita, Ramona, Alvina, and Gregor. And 14 grandchildren. As an athlete and a builder, I quickly realized that Gregor has more than an interesting and diverse background in the sporting world. And he greatly qualifies in both categories. The years I'm talking about are the mid-1940s to the mid-1980s. Gregor's teaching career, which is part and parcel of his sporting career, started in 1963, finished in 1995. First year at St. Agnes, 1 year. Reserve District High, 1 year. Shefferville, Quebec, 1 year. Back to St. Agnes for 3, and then at Beck from 1970 to 1995 upon retirement. But as Gregor put it, his background in sports truly started on Ross Avenue. As he stated, with the Mackenzies, the Ryans, the Rankins, etc., there was enough kids in the neighborhood to have a ton of hockey teams, baseball, and football teams. As an athlete, and I tried to get going and find out about this Florida business where he's golfing now, but I couldn't find out the statistics on it, so I let it go. Who the better is, him or Malky? But we don't want squabbles going on tonight, so I'll leave that go. Anyhow, as an athlete in the hockey world, as I said, very diverse. He's got quite a resume here. Xavier College hockey. Remember, at that time, we didn't have a rink. Antigonish Junior Bulldogs, provincial finalists. Trenton Scotian Junior, provincial finalists. Intermediate A level, Shefferville, Quebec. Baseball, New Waterford Juvenile Provincial Champs, New Waterford Junior Provincial Champs, New Waterford and Sydney Mines Senior Baseball. Basketball, Central High School, Provincial Finalists, and Xavier Junior College. Soccer, this gets quite interesting. At St. FX University for 3 years, 1961 and 62, St. FX captured the Maritime Intercollegiate title. This was a first for the university. In Gregor's senior year, he was leading scorer in the Maritime Conference. At one point, scoring, he could have been with the team that played the other day. You know, he would have fit in with France, no problem at all when I look at this. Or more so, Croatia. But anyhow, at this point, scoring 15 of the team's 32 goals in 7 games. That's unheard of. Gregor had 2 back-to-back 4-goal games. We've heard of hat tricks, but these are 4-goal games. Very impressive. Football, St. FX Junior Varsity, playing wing back on offense and defense end. But here it gets really interesting because I wouldn't realize this at all, but as I said, you go into the background and you get some stuff. Gregor joined the Sea Cadets, and within the Sea Cadets, there was a rifle team. And in 1957, the cadets were offered to get into a competition, a shoot-off against 800 teams from Cape Breton to South Africa. The New Waterford team came in 3rd. There was 1 target point from 2nd and 6 target points from 1st. And you might wonder how this was all put together. Well, you did your shooting at home, and the distance of the shot could be measured. And I know you're thinking, well, the rest of the world would get in closer, not in the Waterford, but the distance could be measured, as was explained to me, by the powder burn on the target. So they were mailed in, and the Waterford came third. The Duke of Edinburgh presented the trophy at Windsor Castle, and Gregor was there representing the Waterford and his team. The winning team was from Stoke-on-Trent, England. As a builder, starting in the hockey world, Gregor coached house league, rep teams, Adam, Pee Wee, Bantam, Juvenile. Co-coached in the Waterford Bantam hockey team to the 1976 provincial title. Coached the Breton Bears. Coached the 1979 Juvenile A hockey team to the provincial title. And the Waterford Juvenile Flyers B-level provincial finalists. In baseball, the Waterford Little League, the Waterford rep teams, Mosquito, Adam, and Bantam. The Cape Breton Metros, 16 and 18-year-olds that ran for 2 years, accumulating with the Canadian Big League Championship Tournament at the Jerry Marsh Field. And Gregor made it clear to me that this was the brainchild of Lowell Cormier and company, but he was a part of it. Senior baseball, Sydney Mines Ramblers, and the Nova Scotia Senior Baseball League. In soccer, St. Agnes High, Reserve District High, and refereed at the high school level for soccer. And at this time, I'd like to ask Gregor, his wife and family, to come forth, accept the plaque in recognition of his success in the sporting world of New Waterford and District.
Thank you.
Well, I guess the first thing that I want you to do is to thank people that got you here. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and so you got to do it right. And I certainly thank the committee, the work that they're doing. I want to speak more about that later. I won't be long, though. And my family, my wife particularly. I put a lot of time in between the lines, both on the ice, on the gym floor, and baseball, and she was behind me the whole time. I was away so much that my own dog used to bark at me when I come home. So that's. That tells a story in itself. You're not around enough, you know. So thanks for all of you for doing that. I'd like to bring this up too for the and it relates to the Hall of Fame committee. Good friend of mine called me from Calgary last night, Carl Marsh, and Carl's having a bit of a time. Health-wise, and he wanted me to promise that I would mention him to everybody that was here, and for everybody to pray for him. And I said there'll probably be about 200 people there, so you're going to get a hell of a lot of prayers, Carol. And anyway, I fulfilled that duty. I wanted to do that. Great guy, Carol. Previously, I spoke with Ambrose and Duncan here, and I said, do you know what happens when a former teacher gets a captive audience? and both of them said, you're standing on a trapdoor. So Brosie is right beside me. If I get out of line, I'll be the hell out of here. But it is a great honor. It is a great honor for teams and for individuals to be recognized. And better still, it's when it comes in your own community, your own home community. I grew up on Ross Avenue and in 3 streets. Roger Gee was here. He'll verify it. In 3 streets, we had enough kids to play whatever the hell we wanted to play, and that's where we learned, and that's where it started. It started right there, and Lowell and I talked about a week ago about the amazing accomplishments of the Waterford athletes, and he thought it would be a good idea someday if somebody took the bull by the horns and figured out just how deep does this go, how many championships were won, and I'm sure it would boggle the mind. When I grew up, I'm a little ahead of my game, one would wonder why New Waterford had such a record. And I know it. I know it personally from I was involved in a lot of teams, a lot of championship teams, and played against a lot of good teams. And some of the honest people that I could talk to mentioned the very thing about what goes on in Waterford, that they put together so many good teams and so many good athletes are turned out of that community. So in its heyday, New Waterford probably had about 6,000 people. And Glace Bay was three to 4 times larger. Sydney was 5 times larger, and we took great pleasure in beating the hell out of both of them. and we did it. We did it quite a few times. Named the sport, and we had a good go at them. And it is a logical question. How come? How so? Other communities have skilled people, and what's the difference? And when the game is on the line, why does one team win it and the other team doesn't? Both, to me, are championship teams anyway. When they get that far, and you got 2 left in the whole shooting match, one is going to win, and sometimes it's a result of, as Lowell just said, some guy throwing a brick, or some guy making the shot, whatever. So I began to think about it, and think about the community that I grew up in as a kid. And there's one thing that I didn't know, but I did find out in a couple of situations. I didn't know that the adults in the community, particularly the sporting adults in the community, were pretty well aware of what kids were doing and just how good they were or weren't. And they kept a close eye on you. Our community was, as everybody knows here, consisted of coal miners. And miners were an extremely generous group of people. And I saw Mary Steele here tonight, and Bozo would tell you more than once, he and Frankie Bursey, you wanted $3,000, they do it in 2 days. And they did it regularly. And the community supported us. This was a fantastic story. In Carl Marsh, who was our team manager, in 1979, we won and I coached it, the Juvenile A, top-level 18-year-old hockey players in the province. We won it all. And we had to go to Mount Pearl in Newfoundland, and we won it for a maritime championship. Winner going to Aylmer, Quebec for the shot at the Canadian title. And we won it in the Waterford on Saturday, and by Wednesday we had to be in Mount Pearl, and we had to fly there, and we needed 13 grand to do it. I wasn't a part of raising the money, somebody else was, but they got 13 grand in 3 days, and that came from the Waterford, and that was just about 40 years ago. So put it in today's figures. It was fantastic. Fantastic. I think I've always viewed sport as a kind of microcosm of real life, and I think it's important that people get involved in it, even if they are referees. Everybody should get involved in it, because it leads to a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff, and it makes good people. And it opens doors where you'd never. I wound up in Windsor Castle. How in the hell would a kid from Ross Avenue wind up in Windsor Castle? True sport. It was just true sport. Otherwise, they'd put you in jail if you went near the place. No, the Waterford was always in the front of my mind when I played, when I came through. And it's not a note of arrogance, but it was a note of confidence, and I think it was bred from living in the community that we were going to win, and that's the way we felt. Nobody wrote it down. Nobody made a big deal out of it. We just went out and we won, and it was like a family, and to me that was the greatest fun that I had. Was belonging to that family. How did I know that adults cared? I'll give you just a couple of situations. I was coming home from what we always called the field. That was Jerry Marsh's field. And I used to walk up the railroad tracks, and right up to the railroad tracks went right by my house. And when I was walking past Mike Laffin's house, he was out in the yard, and he was working. I was maybe 16 at the time. I knew of Mike Laffin. I didn't know him personally. But anyway, he hollered to me. I had my glove and my spikes over my shoulder. And so I was thinking, what the hell does he want? So I jumped the brook, jumped the ditch over to see Mike. And he said, coming from the field? And I said, yeah. What are you playing? I said, midget baseball. He said, are you any good? And I said to myself, what's a 16-year-old going to say to him? How the hell am I? And I called him Mr. Laffin. He said, my name is Mike. And I mumbled something to him, not too bad, I guess. And he said to me in a rather stentorian voice, well, you should be. And I said, how so? He said, the only person that I ever saw that could hit a softball farther than your old man was your mother. So I said, I guess that's not bad. It's not a bad genetic start anyway. I don't know if the skills are going to come with it. And so I went home and I asked Mother, I said, Ma, did you play softball? She said, yes. And I thought I'd pull off Mike Laffin. And I said, were you any good at it? And she said, I could hit. Change the subject. Let's do something else. Another time, so what did I take away from that? I took away from that a prominent guy, Mike Laffin, didn't suffer fools gladly. That guy was part of RCAF bomber crew, shot down over Germany. Was a couple of years in the POW camp, and he was a great guy. And so I took from that this guy, he knew me. I didn't know him. So that was important. I had an idea that the adults are watching. Better than that, or just as good as it at least, when I was in grade 11 at St. Agnes School, believe it or not, I played hockey. I played a lot of hockey. I played hockey in 4 hockey leagues when I was in grade 11. Books took a pounding. Didn't do much. Spent a lot of time out on the ice. And I was a midget hockey player. And but the Waterford had its own intermediate hockey league in those days, and it was a good hockey league, really good. A lot of good players there, and they picked up players from the midget team. I got hooked up with the old timers, and one of them is down there, Duffy, and Mickey Chesson. That's Mickey Kwok. Mickey was a goalie, and he was a good one. He's a good one, and. When I got playing with these guys, these were the icons in the Waterford that I grew up with, the sport icons. Duffy for sure, Pounder, Nipper Oliver, Rocky Caversan, Foot de Passerini, Louis Breslin, all of these guys. And they'd be in their mid-30s, a little bit later. And they treated me like an adult. Here I am, a runny-nosed 16-year-old, and they treated me just like an adult. Wouldn't give me any beer in the dressing room, but I got pop at least, and I didn't even have to pay my own way. They paid for me. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from them, and that carried through for me for the rest of my life. Just a final note. And it's about what opportunities sports bring. I can give you this example. The big league baseball team that I was involved with in 91 and 92. We got around. We played ball in the U.S. Played in some major tournament in New York, down in Long Island, and these kids saw a lot, and they played prep schools. They played this tournament that we played in Long Island was top notch. It was really good. Kids learned a lot there, and from that team, 4 kids wound up playing U.S. college ball. And one guy played in Division I, top Division I ball. 3 of them developed careers in the United States, and they stayed there, and they did very, very well for themselves, and got an education out of the racket to boot. The other fellow started his IT career down in California, and that was connected in a good way to baseball. But I'll just quote one guy. Keith Sampson was his name, for those of you who might know him. He's a great kid, self-made. He graduated from a university in Louisiana, and he was one of Greg McSween's biology students. He was into science, so he started a company. This was the cleanup business when eco became very important about 15, 20 years ago. He started his own company. Last I heard, he had headquarters in Dallas, Texas. He had one in Shreveport, Louisiana, and he had one in Honolulu, Hawaii. That came from really the introductions that baseball did for him led to that. And there are so many more examples that I could quote, but Brosie's giving me a push. He's saying, get out of there, get out of here. And so again, I'm going to thank the committee, pump a little air in their tires. They've done a hell of a lot of work here. And I would propose that someday we should have them up receiving awards. Thank you very much.
You can take that, Gregor, for now. We'll gather it after. Tried that trapdoor twice. It didn't work.